Alright, it is time to do another JoJo What If. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of them lately, I know, but well, that's what you get for having a core audience based on a certain franchise when you're covering other franchises. Lol. But don't worry, I'll be doing other What If soon. I'm just gonna focus on a few of these more JoJo ones, and then I'll go back to, just doing other stuff. It's most of these are just for JoJo, with the exception of like two or three, so like once I can get done with those kind of what ifs, then like once I'm done with all those what ifs, I'm going back to my own stuff for a little while before opening up requests because good god, that was a lot of requests I've been getting, but anyway, let's go to the whole thing. Today we're going to be talking about what if William Zeppeli did not die. So, if you don't remember Will, he was, the mentor of Phantom Blood, obviously. A lot of the JoJo fanbase knows who he is. So, what would happen if William didn't die in an alternative timeline? Well, I'll answer my take and I'll say what I think would happen. But before we do the video, I want to thank the person who requested this video. Joseph. I'm not going to pronounce the rest of your name. Thank you for telling me how your name was pronounced in the Santana What If. So, yeah. Thank you for that, because I didn't have to screw up any other pronunciations again. So, yeah. Thanks to Joseph for requesting this what if, and I'm gonna do it now. So, let's start off with Phantom Blood. So, everything at this moment more or less goes the same until we get to the ending half, or at least the Tarkus fight in particular. So, in this timeline, this is going to be very hard because this was all fated to happen, and in JoJo, if something is fated to happen, most likely that's gonna happen. Whether it happens right then and there, or if it happens later on, that's kind of one of those things where fate eventually does catch up to someone. But in this timeline, William will survive. Now, it would be hard, granted, since he kind of just accepted he was gonna die there. Maybe he just loses his legs but lives. Assuming he does, really nothing would change except that Will would have just been left in a wheelchair and probably would have just done nothing in the story. But in this timeline, Will doesn't take the attack. Maybe Jonathan or Speedwagon or someone like that pushes him out of the way. So William does not get killed or anything like that. Everything like that happens with Will and Jonathan just killing Tarkus together. So everything like that happens. They're going to meet Dyer, Straight So, and Tom Petty, which is going to be a nice little reunion for everyone, for them to finally reunite with Will again. Now, when it comes to the final fight with Dio, well, I mean, not really the final fight, but the castle battle, Dyer's not going to jump in like an idiot and get himself killed. The only reason this all happened was because William died, so like he wanted to avenge him and that kind of stuff, and like he just jumped in and got himself killed like an idiot. So in this alternative timeline, Dyer most likely doesn't just jump in and gets himself killed. Granted, there's still a chance, assuming he tries to do it, he's still gonna die. But with William still alive, Dyer really has no reason to get involved in this battle, and that's all just Jonathan's fight, so he leaves Jonathan to actually fight Dio, and that just kind of leads to them probably just playing a support role. Now, in this timeline, it will be harder for Jonathan to actually defeat Dio, but I do personally believe that Jonathan can do it. I just think that Will's probably going to have to help him. So, in this timeline, Will, Dyer, and Straight So, and Tom Petty, I assume as well, they pull it in them. Maybe they take out all of Dio's minions early, and they're able to do some hormone stuff to kind of get Dio tired out, and then this just leads to Jonathan being able to kill Dio. Yep, Dio's probably going to still escape the castle, and I feel like Jonathan would still die at the end. Unfortunately, it's going to happen. I know they would maybe try to help, but like in a circumstance like this, I feel like none of them would really attend Jonathan's wedding. Maybe Will could, and if he does, maybe there's a chance. But then again, that's a very unlikely chance. And the only way that could happen is Will dying to save Jonathan there. And honestly, by that point, that just turns more into a what if Jonathan didn't die video more than a what if Will didn't die video. So nothing really too interesting there. And in my opinion, I'm just going to assume Will just sits this whole thing out. Or maybe he goes, but he actually has to witness Jonathan die, which would be very depressing for him. After that, the rest of part 1 just realistically goes the same by that point. So, now hopping into battle tendency, this is going to be interesting. So, Jonathan's entire thing, he still has George II, and Will's going to have Mario around. So I do assume that Will's probably going to get them to grow up together, or at least help George II during his childhood. If anything, he may actually want to try to teach George II Hamon. Irina may want to outlaw Hamon like she did in the canon, but maybe that with William around, and also with Dyer still alive, I could see there being a good chance that they could be willing to teach George II Hamon. So there is a slim chance that he could actually make it in this timeline. I think it's a possibility, and he could probably show up for the later parts and actually play a role in the story, assuming Will just actually teaches him Hamon with Dyer, and honestly depends on if Irina is going to ban Hamon. So, George II would probably not get killed by the giant zombie, but I do believe Lisa would probably still walk off and probably try to stop all the evil and the stone mask and stuff. Now, in the case of Mario, I feel like he would also live because, with William still around, there's a good chance that Mario would also live, since I feel like he would want to help his son out. If anything, Mario may want to spend more time with his kids, so William may try to help him, actually. And in this timeline, Will may try to help out, but I feel like Mario and Will would probably just investigate together. And in my opinion, no one would die. So Mario would be saved, and I feel like everything with Caesar kind of goes the same, but Mario and Will are still alive. They're going to meet Caesar's siblings, and by this point, this kind of turns into the Mario what if in a way, but the only change is that now we have George II, and we also have William Dyer in here. Straits is also there because in this timeline he would never become a vampire. So in this whole universe now, seeing that no one is kind of evil and all that, and no one's really dead, we have more characters around. So how would it change the overall story? Well, for the most part, the beginning half, there would be no Straitso fight with Joseph, so I guess Joseph and Straitso and Dyer can just go to Germany together. I think George II can probably just be held hostage with Speedwagon for the sake of the plot, and it'd probably just be so they'd have a Hamon guy to fight Santana once he awakens. So that whole thing, it's gonna go the same. And then they'd probably just go to Italy. They'll meet Mario and Caesar and his kids, and Caesar's siblings, and Will. They're going to meet all those guys. And for the most part, it would be interesting to see how Will reacts to Joseph, the grandson of Jonathan, and George II, the son of Jonathan. So in this timeline, we have a lot more characters around. And I could generally see this actually leading to AC/DC just getting killed very quickly. So in my opinion, part 2, it's a little bit shorter now because one of the Pillarmen are gone. Now it'd also be a lot shorter because during the whole hotel fight, I think Caesar's brothers would still go to storm in like in the Mario would have. But instead, I think that the moment they're about to get attacked and make a mistake, Will jumps in and saves them. And he basically gets killed like how he was fated to die. So in other words, Will would technically die the same way, and I would have Mario, Caesar, and his sisters arrive, and in my opinion, I would have a really cool moment where the Zeppelis work together, and they kill Wamu as one whole Zeppeli family. Kind of as a really nice, cool moment, and gives Will one last moment to see his family happy together before he passes away. So he watches his son reunite with his grandkids, and it's kind of a very sweet moment. Very bittersweet, and I think it'd be a very nice moment. Now, for the rest of the story, really, with all the Pillarmen all being taken out a lot quicker, I think everything with Cars more or less goes the same, and he still becomes the ultimate life form. But I think like Dire and Straito are probably just they'll probably die in this fight, in my honest opinion. So like, I think with everything like that going on, they're gonna probably just die. Dire and Straito will. So like, Ultimate Cars probably kills them in my opinion. If not that, then maybe they can survive the part, but they can maybe just die off screen. I really don't know if any of them would be in Stardust Crusaders. They could, maybe, but like, I don't really know in this case. It'd be kind of hard to say. So, I guess they live. Maybe they can die. Who knows? It's honestly up to you on when those two die in particular, I guess. But Loggins and Machina, Loggins can maybe die to Cars. I think he'll survive personally. I'd say everyone, with like exception of Will, everyone's gonna live. Will's gonna die. Dire and Straits are either gonna die in part at the final fight against Cars, or they're just gonna die a couple years off screen, and they'll probably just have a peaceful death of their own. I could see more characters being more willing to train Hamon. Speedwagon would, I mean not Speedwagon, but no, not Straitzo, Stroheim. Too many S characters. Stroheim would actually survive World War II because, you know, the Axis powers, and I feel like Mario would want his boys to compete in the war. So I think that with all that being said, Stroheim would survive World War II, but he'd probably just be imprisoned for a couple years until like the late 50s, early 60s. So for the most part, part two ends with really no tragedy in this alternative timeline. Now we go on to Stardust Crusaders, and in my opinion, we would have all of Caesar's grandkids and Stroheim's kids, Dominic, Nico, Julius, and Rose. I would add them in the story, and by this point, it would kind of turn into the Mario What If, but with George II also here. So, in this timeline, there would be a lot more characters to kind of flesh out. Now, when it comes down to the story, I would feel like Loggins would probably just die against Vanilla Ice instead. But that's just like my opinion. Someone's gonna die to Lisa Lisa. Probably Mario, maybe George, maybe Lisa Lisa. I see one of those three probably just dying to reveal the world's power. I don't know about Machina. He might just die in Stardust Crusaders too, I guess. Um, for the most part, I feel like the part overall wouldn't really have many casualties. Like Stroheim's probably gonna die, in my opinion. But if you're also talking about like other story changes, I feel like the early half would probably just be a lot faster since there's more Crusaders. Second half would also be pretty fast, but not as fast. I feel like Dio may end up adding more villains to the entire part, if anything. But I feel like a lot of group fights could be speed up a lot quicker. As for solo fight wise, I really feel like all the 1v1 fights are going to go the same. If anything, I could see some of the brand new characters in this place. I could see some of them maybe just replacing other Crusaders in fights. Jotaro and Polnareff had a lot of fights, so maybe one of Caesar's grandchildren or one of Stroheim's children could take their roles in a battle. Maybe George or Lisa or Stroheim or Caesar or Mario could maybe get a 1v1 fight of their own. Or maybe they can kind of join in with like someone like Polnareff or Jotaro in a fight or something like that. I don't know. It'd be interesting. Like maybe one of them can help against Death 13 with Kakyoin. I think there are a lot of scenarios to come out of it. So there'd be a lot of interesting fights to come out of this timeline. I feel like Caesar's siblings, all of them would probably just sit out Stardust Crusaders in this timeline. And for the most part, part 3, more or less, would kind of be a lot quicker. The only change is that I feel like Abdul, Iggy, and Kakyoin, 3 characters who originally died in the part, actually would have all three survived. Avdol's the only one who may still die. He's the only one who I still think has a high chance of dying. But Kakyo and Iggy, I feel like, have a better chance to survive the part. I also think Avdol would have a better chance of living now, but I'd say his chances of dying are a little higher than Iggy and Kakyoan's would be. Polnareff, Jotaro, and Joseph are like guaranteed survivors, so really you can't stop those characters from living. And I feel like Stroheim's children and Caesar's grandchildren, they're probably gonna live, so like they're probably guaranteed to live. And in my opinion, Caesar would probably live if Mario's there. And I guess when it comes down to it, Joseph, Caesar, Jotaro, Polnareff, Kakyoin, Avdol, Iggy, Julius Rose, Dominic, and Nico, they can all live. I'd probably add Holhurst to the group so he can live. And I guess we have more casual. I guess with the other characters around. I mean, with Machina, Loggins, Lisa, George II, Mario, and Machina and Loggins, and like Stroheim, all those characters. I really can't say exactly. Those ones are more optional, I guess. So, like, some of them may just live, some of them may just end up dying. It's one of those things where it's all up to you. So, I think there would be some interesting stories to come out of this timeline. And I feel like there would be some changes to come out of Part 3. Now, next part we're talking about here is Diamond is Unbreakable, aka Part 4. And this part just realistically goes the same, honestly. I mean, we'd have more characters. I could see some fights maybe being speed up. Heck, maybe they could stop Kira from being Kosaku with all the ranged fighters. I personally feel like Kira is going to still be Kosaku, so that whole subplot, that goes the same. But I do feel like with more characters around, there could be some more interesting interactions, you could say. It's hard to say who goes with who exactly. In my opinion, it'd kind of just be like the Mario what if. I don't know, I'm kind of being very lazy on this scenario. Sorry about that. But in this case, I could go into more details in the comments if you guys want me to. Maybe I can go into more details about some of the characters. But for the most part, I feel like Part 4, because that's the part I'm on. I was thinking what part I was on. Part 4, I really think wouldn't really change too much. But there would be quite a few changes, in my opinion. Like, I feel like Kakyoin and Avdol, Whole Horse, Rose and Nico, and those characters kind of show up. Whichever previous Battle Tendency characters are there are still alive. They could maybe show up, with the exception of Caesar and Mario, in my opinion. There's a chance that maybe Stroheim shows up. If he's still alive, he'll probably show up in 4 or 5 and probably just die there. Lisa would probably just show up in 4. There's a chance she can die, but that's more of a chance thing. And George II would probably show up, and he could also die. Personally, I feel like George II would probably just die and it gets Kira, in my opinion. I don't know about the other ones, though, but yeah. I don't really think 4 would overall really change much, I guess, but more characters are just around, so that'd probably just make the part a lot more fun. So, next part is Part 5, Golden Wind, Venta Aria, whatever you want to call it. I think Avdol would probably just show up in Italy, and I feel like Koichi, Josuke no Kiyasu can come. I think we'll have another Zeppeli in there, Frito, and it'd just kind of be like the Mario what if. I could also see there being another Part 4 character around, just for the body switching stuff, and Fugo would also show up for the later half and actually join the group. And for the rest of the story, it'd kind of just be like the Mario what if, so Bakio's still gonna die, but the only change is that Caesar's 2 twin brothers are still alive, because since one of them originally died in Part 2 in the Mario what if, now he's still alive, so in a way you could technically view this as a sequel to the Mario what if on what if all of Caesar's siblings survived Battle Tendency instead of the one brother. But this is kind of, in a way you could say, as a sequel. But he could show up in Italy, and he also could actually have a grandson or a granddaughter, which actually would be kind of cool to see. Maybe a granddaughter to kind of add more of a spice to the group. But then again, it'd be kind of odd because, you know, the entire thing with Trish, it'd be kind of weird. But maybe a granddaughter as a parallel to Frito, someone who starts off on Team Butradiot in the start, and then it'd be kind of interesting. Honestly, having another girl in Part 5 could actually be pretty cool, not gonna lie. But for the most part, I feel like Abdul would probably just be the one in Coco Jumbo. If Mario's around, then I feel like he's the only Zeppeli who's really gonna die here. And if anything, it could generally just fit the themes of Fate in Part 5, where no matter what, in the long term, we're all slaves to fate, yada yada. So, like Mario, while he did escape the Rome Coliseum alive one time, in the long term, his fate was going to be sealed, passing away at the Rome Coliseum. So Mario would die in the Rome Coliseum, and you really couldn't stop that. So it fits the themes of Golden Wind as a whole to have him die there. I feel like Narazia can live. Maybe Mario can die in his place if you want to. Or maybe you can just have like Iggy just die there, because Iggy could definitely fit that role of being the death here. I feel like Iggy probably just maybe dies in the final fight. You could maybe have him live, but I personally feel like he's gonna die. I feel like for the most part would have Julius and Dominic as other characters around here, and they'll probably just live. Polnarf's gonna live and not be a turtle, and I feel like Abdul could fulfill the turtle role in his place. And it, for the most part, I feel like it would just be similar to the Mario What If I did. If Mario Zeppeli is not a factor in this, though, I feel like Caesar and his siblings would. I feel like Caesar and his siblings. I feel like one of them or a few of them are gonna die. Hard to say who exactly. Caesar may die. Maybe one of his brothers or both of his brothers die. I really can't say who exactly, but I do have a feeling that someone's probably just gonna die in Golden Wind there. But to be honest, Bruno also dies, so like that's gonna be an unfortunate thing. So like Bruno still dies, and then the whole thing with Jernogan Requiem goes the same. But the only change is that from the OG Part 5 casualties, at least Narantia, whatever you want to call him, at least he gets to live. F in the chat for Abakio and Bruno, though, in my opinion. Now we finish this whole thing with Part 6, Stone Ocean. So it'd probably just be the Mario What If. Yeah, I know, I'm getting lazy, but like, it'd just be the Mario What If, but maybe with Caesar's, all of his siblings actually showing up potentially. So it'd be kind of cool to see Caesar and all of his siblings show up, but then again, it kind of gives a nice excuse for Rocky just to kill off all of the Pellies in one fell, all of Caesar's entire generation in one fell swoop against Made in Heaven. That, or maybe you can just have them each die in the part. Like, maybe instead, all the main Stone Ocean casualties that happen instead are all Caesar's siblings. Like, maybe Caesar gets killed in the Punishment Ward. One of the brothers can then die in Weather's place. Then another one can, like, die to Sea Moon. Then the older sister can get killed, kind of similar, playing a role to, like, how Anasui did. And then the youngest sister can do some kind of sacrifice to stop Pucci. It'd be kind of cool if, like, all of Caesar's siblings died in a way from like age-wise, or maybe you could just reverse it in a way, but that's one way it could go, which I don't really think it would fit that well. But including all of Caesar's siblings in Part 6 would be kind of fun to see. It'd also be kind of cool to kind of see what else can happen. I feel like Weather Report's probably just going to be guaranteed to die. Hermes and FF and Anasui, on the other hand, I feel like do stand a chance of living. Same with Jotaro and Jolene. So from everyone who originally dies in Part 6, only Weather Report would probably die, unfortunately. If all of Caesar's siblings are around, then I feel like Hermes would live. But if there's not many of Caesar's siblings around, she'll probably die in the Punishment Ward in FF's place. FF, I feel like, would live, in my opinion, unless none of Caesar's siblings show up, or at least like one or two, maybe. Anasui, I feel like the whole thing with Tenmei still gets involved, and like him bringing Josuke. Tejin, I forgot how to pronounce that name. I'll put it in the comments if you're interested in knowing her name. So maybe you know how to pronounce it, but I'm not going to pronounce it. And then Polnareff can have his son, John Perry Michael. That whole thing can happen, so Josuke is going to be dragged along, so he can heal Anasui, and Anasui could survive that attack. Jotaro would survive, and Jolene would survive, because I feel like with more characters around, the fight wouldn't really escalate to a point where Jolene needs to sacrifice her life. And even if there is a point of the fight where it escalates to how it does in the OG, I highly doubt Jolene's going to be the one who does that sacrifice, and it'd probably just be like someone else on the team. So that's the video. Did you enjoy it? I really didn't go into much detail because I know this would be a very detailed video normally, but at this moment I'm not really gonna do that, but I could definitely go into more details in the comments because this is kind of an interesting what if that I could see myself being interested in. So I hope you enjoyed it. Especially I hope you enjoyed it, Joseph, because you suggested this what if. At the moment I'm not taking any requests, so any requests you guys are taking, I will unfortunately deny. I'm looking at these certain few guys who want to keep requesting videos. I gotta keep deleting your comments. Well, I mean, I should just inform you that this whole thing's gonna be done. Well, I probably will, cause why not? Requests are done requests are unfortunately gonna be on a hold. And once all my requests are done, I'll probably do some videos that I'm interested in. And then after that, I'll probably open up requests again. So, like, I'm going to take a while break from requests. I hope you guys understand. Thanks for watching. I'll see y'all next time. And I'll make sure to complete the rest of these requests. And until then, see y'all next time.